the worst thing about that article is that they quote an idiot who's a self-proclaimed expert on psychedelics, an idiot named Michael Pollan, the author of How to Change Your Mind. Michael Pollan is a hypocrite, a bigot, and an idiot who needs to change his mind. I would like to talk about an absurd article that is being widely shared on social media that is promoting a concept that I have seen other articles promoting before. The article is, "It's time to step out of the psychedelic closet." That article promotes the opinion that users of psychedelics are hiding in a metaphorical closet, similarly to how homosexual people were hiding in a metaphorical closet, and that they need to metaphorically come out of the closet, and that they need to be honest, meaning to talk about their experiences on psychedelics. Now, I would like to point out two things about this article. The first thing I'd like to point out is that they mentioned that Oakland, California decriminalized DMT. And the second thing I would like to point out is that this article points out that numerous people highly influential in our society, including billionaires like Steve Jobs, have used psychedelics and talked about them. But despite all of this, untold millions of people remain silent about their use of psychedelics. The article then asks why. Ed says it is because of fear of real-world consequences, like excommunication from families, career paths, and social circles, and not to mention jail time or worse in certain countries. That article is like offensive to somebody like me, who was beaten up by the police and arrested for only 5 hits of LSD. Fear of going to jail isn't the last of a long list of reasons that people who use psychedelics are afraid to come out of the proverbial closet. It's like the first reason, the main reason. If they want people who use psychedelics to come out of the closet, maybe they should make sure that there's not a jail cell waiting for them right outside of the freaking closet. Maybe if there weren't police officers waiting to beat them up and kill them for like little minuscule amounts of psychedelics, then they would come out of the freaking closet. It's like demeaning to people who have been victims of police brutality because of their use of psychedelics to tell them that something is wrong with them psychologically because they're not coming out of the closet. Or even to ask why, as this article does, that they're still in the closet. Like, why do you think, dude? Why do you think they're still in the closet? Like, seriously. If you were a homosexual and you were living in a country where you could be put in jail for life or put to death for being a homosexual, would you be openly gay? Would you be waving the gay flag in front of your house? Oh, hell no, you wouldn't be. You would be in the closet, just like the users of psychedelic drugs are in the closet in America or in certain countries. Certain countries? Don't you mean like all countries? Or at least almost all countries? Adrienne? I'll be right there, but that's not the worst thing about that article. In my opinion, the worst thing about that article is that they quote an idiot who's a self-proclaimed expert on psychedelics, an idiot named Michael Pollan, the author of How to Change Your Mind. Michael Pollan is a hypocrite, a bigot, and an idiot who needs to change his mind. After I read what he was quoted as saying in another article, it upset me so much that I couldn't sleep that night, and I was still upset when I woke up in the morning. I'm going to show it to you right now. The article, Where I Stand on Magic Mushrooms, which was also widely shared on social media, was apparently written by Michael Pollan. I think when I originally read this, it was quotes from this in another article. However, I am going to read what he wrote in his original article. These are Michael Pollan's own words. Cannabis is not just a different drug, but a different issue as well. The prohibition of cannabis has been the foundation of the drug war and has led to the incarceration of thousands of people, many of them people of color. A large number of people jailed under three strikes laws were jailed for unconscionably long terms, and in many cases, one of those strikes was a cannabis crime. That's why there has been a compelling social justice reason for working to legalize cannabis. While it is true that prohibition takes a psychological toll on mushroom users, I don't see the same emergency in the case of psilocybin, where arrests have been relatively few and generally have not been targeted at people of color. So what he's saying is that it is okay for the police to arrest me, to put me in jail for an unconscionably long time, and even to beat me up for psychedelics just because I'm not a person of color? And he's saying that only psychological harm and not physical harm has come to users of psychedelic mushrooms. And by the way, it wouldn't have mattered if I was trying to swallow a bag of psychedelic mushrooms and not 5 hits of LSD. The police still would have beaten me up just like this. They still would have strangled me and choked me, trying to make me cough it up so they could collect it as evidence. They still would have later claimed they were trying to stop me from overdosing if it was 5 little mushrooms in a bag, not 5 hits of LSD. The same exact thing would have happened to me for mushrooms as happened to me for LSD. But according to Michael Pollan, white users of magic mushrooms are only being subjected to psychological and not physical harm from the war on drugs. According to Michael Pollan, there is no urgency to stop something like this from happening to someone like me. Michael Pollan is bigoted against people who are not people of color, like me. And if Michael Pollan wants to see an example of how cultural groups of white people who use psychedelics are treated by the police in America, he could look at this picture of me, or he could go to the National Rainbow Gathering. I'm pretty sure it's happening in Wisconsin or Minnesota, and I'm pretty sure there will be federal police known as LEOs, law enforcement officers, illegally searching numerous people's cars, mainly looking for marijuana and psychedelics. I'm pretty sure they're going to be pulling people over for no reason and making up excuses about why they were pulled over and illegally searching them, and possibly even setting up roadblocks where they search every single car. And I'm pretty sure that the reason that the LEOs, as they're known to the Rainbow family, which is the group of mostly white hippies who go to rainbow gatherings, pulled over and searched Green and Purple Kitchen school bus a few years ago as it was driving into the rainbow gathering. And while they were searching the school bus, they opened boxes of Band-Aids and ripped open every single Band-Aid to make sure it was just Band-Aids inside the Band-Aid packages and not something else, is that the something else they were looking for was LSD. All Michael Pollan needs to do is look at the history of police harassment of the Grateful Dead family or the Rainbow family to see that it has led to the incarceration of thousands of people for unconscionably long terms, that it has taken more than a psychological toll on users, and that specific groups of people, while they may not be people of color, have been targeted and arrested, or worse, beaten up, or even killed. And the reason I think he's a hypocrite is that in his book, he talks about his own experiences tripping on magic mushrooms. Which makes me think that he's basically a privileged snob, because if he had ended up like this for tripping on mushrooms, instead of ending up having like a happy trip in the woods where he like decided to write a book or whatever happened, he probably would have a different opinion. He probably wouldn't be advocating to slow down the psychedelic legalization movement. And now that my brutal rant is over, I am actually going to do something that I think some of my YouTube viewers, some random scientists somewhere on the planet Earth, and this jeeringly annoying article want me to do. I am going to step out of the psychedelic closet. And as this article encourages people to do, I am going to talk about my experiences with a particular psychedelic. That one. Right there. DMT. Because as this article says, and as I said in my Legalize LSD song, the time is now. Not just to legalize psychedelics, but to talk about them, I guess. So everybody seems to be wondering whether the aliens that people talk to when they smoke DMT are real, and whether these aliens are something that like one individual person only ever sees in their own mind, or whether the aliens that you talk to when you smoke DMT are also talking to other humans. So I can answer that question based on my own experiences. One time I was smoking DMT, and it was like a really long time ago. I think it was like the third time I ever smoked it, possibly the fourth time I ever smoked it. But after smoking it, I was like then back in my own body, and I was laying in bed, and I opened my eyes, and I looked around the room, and in my mind, I was explaining that I was a human being in a body, living on planet, breathing air, in a house, in a room, in like our physical reality. And I realized that I was explaining it to like some kind of alien consciousness that had like connected with my mind, and didn't know like anything at all whatsoever about our reality or the nature of it or what it was. And only when this consciousness kind of answered back to me and expressed interest in what I was explaining and asked to know more did I actually realize what was happening, and that I was actually explaining it to an alien consciousness. So I feel like that alien consciousness made a permanent connection with my brain. Like as Trey Anastasio said in the lyrics to Ghost, the latch was left unhooked. And not only every time after that I smoked DMT, but even at other times, sometimes like months or years from when I had smoked it, I felt like I was suddenly explaining to this alien consciousness that was connected to my mind, like what things in our reality were. Like I would be walking down the street and I would look at something and I would start thinking about what it was, and I would feel like I was getting like telepathic responses from an alien consciousness wanting to know more, and it was that same alien. So about 10 years or more after that first experience of making this telepathic contact with this alien that didn't know anything about what our reality was. I was laying in my bed and smoking DMT, and I was listening to Fish. And after the entire experience, I was back in my body again listening to Fish, and this consciousness said, "What is that music?" And I was telling this consciousness what the music was. I was saying, "This is Fish, and it's a band I like, and I really like this song, and I really like their concerts," and I was just like thinking about it in the way that you think about things when you're connected to an alien consciousness through DMT, and you're like thinking about them in a way that kind of like telepathically lets them know what you're thinking. I was basically telling the consciousness, the same consciousness, the one that I had been in continuous contact with for like more than 10 years, what Fish was. And then he said, "Oh, that's interesting. Nobody's ever played Fish for me before." And that's when I realized that since first making contact with me, a human, he had also made contact with other humans, and none of those humans had ever been listening to Fish before. So that's how I know that the aliens are real and that they're talking to other humans, because I encountered one of them and was like the first human that he had ever encountered, and have been like connected to his consciousness ever since then. And then he's told me things that made me know that he's talked to other humans since talking to me. It was like that one time when I smoked DMT, it made him able to connect not just to my mind, but to our entire realm. So there's my story. I hope nobody thinks I'm crazy now. I'm sure some people will after watching this. And that is possibly the other reason, other than being afraid to go to jail, that people aren't telling you about their experiences with psychedelics, because, well, I'm sure that a large number of people will be quite impressed with my story and will be making some crazy comments in the comments section of this video, and will be sending me all kinds of weird messages on Facebook, everything from like telling me they also had the same experience, or wondering about my experience and wanting to know more, to like offering to like sell me drugs or plants to extract drugs from or something. There will also be a large portion of people that think that this is like the absolute final proof of my insanity that they have been suspecting I have for a year, and I have like now confirmed it. Anyway, now that I have told a story that I probably should have never told online, I am going to end this video. Please like this video, share this video, especially with your friends on Facebook, and especially in Facebook groups that I am still banned from sharing in due to oversharing my video about DMT being decriminalized in Oakland, California. But also with idiotic reporters and self-proclaimed experts who write stupid articles like this one and this one, where they claim that anyone who wants to have an intelligent discussion on this topic can reach out to them. And also, don't forget to watch my other videos, especially my video about DMT being decriminalized in Oakland, California. And also, subscribe to my channel. And also, since I am still banned from posting in Facebook groups, will somebody in Santa Rosa, California, please share this video in the Santa Rosa, California Cop Watch group, because Jason Jucatan, the police officer that did this to me, who used to work in Petaluma, California, is still a police officer and is now working in Santa Rosa, California. Bye.